Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking about how playing for story is more effective than min-maxing in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. So I'm very blessed to be a player in Ted Adams' long-running Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition Griffin Gaff campaign. It's a pretty serious tabletop role-playing game. We are coming up on our 28th session. Okay, I came in on this game probably around the 10th session, so I've been playing for probably easily 2 years, right? So probably like 20, close to 20 sessions easy. And these are serious D&D games where like sessions are minimum 4 hours. We have reached 6.5 hours on some sessions. So this is dyed-in-the-wool Dungeons & Dragons run straight, like, all the rules in play, the full 9. Now, we have a range of players at that table, right? We have some serious role players. We also have some serious min-maxers, okay? People who are very, very good at knowing exactly what their characters should do at any given time to maximize damage, to maximize the ability, their armor class, to make sure that they're not hit, to make sure they're casting out the maximum number of spells at the right time, all this stuff, okay? Now, I have read all 3 books. I've read the Monster Manual, the Dungeon Master Guide, and the Player's Handbook, and so I know the rules, but I don't know them at the level of minutia, right? I can't min-max because I don't know the rules for a character to the min-max level, and and the way I approach my character is I am playing a wizard. I do not, and because of the complexity, like, I don't enjoy complexity in the character. I don't enjoy complexity in the rules mechanics of a character. I enjoy complexity from the role-playing story perspective, right? So, like, for instance, I wrote a pretty significant backstory where this is a human wizard with a criminal background. But then I said, okay, I have a criminal background, which means I get sleight of hand and all these things. And I said, but I want you to know, Game Master, I'm not going to use any of those because I'm now a hero. I've turned to magic to turn away from crime, right? So I will not be using any of my sleight of hand. And because I've turned away for 3 or 4 years now, even if I try to use sleight of hand, I'm not going to be able to do it, right? Because I won't get advantage, right? And my Game Master came right back and he's like, that's your background, man. You can't just leave that on the table. You still get advantage even though you haven't used sleight of hand in 3 or 4 years. And I'm like, that's kind of weird, right? I thought it was a little weird. So, and the reason why is the Game Masters and the other players at the table are really expecting a fully configured, maximized, well played from the rules mechanic perspective character, right? And with Scott Garibay, you just don't get that, right? I'm all about the story, and from the rules perspective, the one thing that I give attention to is I try to make sure that I'm not using spells that I don't have access to, or that I'm ever giving my character an advantage that he shouldn't give. But generally, a perfect example is, I don't think I've ever used a bonus action, right? I don't even really understand what they are, right? From the perspective of, like, I understood the 3rd edition, move minor, standard move minor. I understood that. But the bonus actions don't make sense to me in 5th edition, right? So rather than figuring it out, I just moved on, and I'm like, I played enough D&D games to realize that I'm functional, and that's a really good way of explaining my character and how he runs. He's functional, right? But something really strange happened, and that's why I'm talking about this today. I actually think that playing for story is more effective than min-maxing. So right now, a good example is David Friant. So David Friant has a dwarf that is min-maxed. I don't think he does a great job of role-playing that character, but that character is played, he knows when his bonus actions are supposed to fire off. He has got a very tight armor class build, right? Like, it's very hard to hit his character, and his character almost never goes down. My character goes down once or twice a session. It's very, very frequent, right? So I would have assumed that my character would be weaker than David Fryan's, because he spent a ton of time learning the mechanics of the game, and he, you know, his character should logically be more powerful. But something really odd happened, right? And that was the first, like, probably 12 sessions ago. I got, I said my character's going to start a magic shop in his town, right? And so I'm going to need an apprentice to kind of watch over the shop. So I got this apprentice named Obsid Strandon, and he is an Earth Genasi with a gladiator background, okay? And so I threw him in there, and I started having him with me all the time, and I was, you know, teaching him magic, right? Well, right out of the gate, what happens is now I have another spellcaster, so the action economy comes in, right? So I have a spell, and I get to cast for my assistant, Obsid Strandon. Now, there were absolutely times where he was like 5, 6, 7, you know, levels lower than me. And so there were times where I was like, hey, I need to send him off over here because he's going to get killed if he goes up against this beholder, right? And so we would send him off. Well, something came up in the story, and I literally was like, Obsid, Aeson Shardgale, my wizard, that's my human wizard with a criminal background, is going to a very dark place, and I'm sending you away. You're no longer my apprentice because I don't want you anywhere near the dark place my character is going, right? So I lost that apprentice, right? So I spent 1 or 2 sessions without an apprentice, and then I said, you know what, I really liked having an apprentice. I'm going to get a new apprentice, and I got a human female wizard named Boken as my new apprentice, right? Well, then we went to the City of Glory in the game, and I got an Aarakocra. I was like, oh man, these Aarakocra are really powerful. And so we got a lot of gold from going to the City of Glory, and I got a I hired an Aarakocra veteran, okay, veteran right out of the monster manual. Very powerful, very capable. But now at this point, like, you know, for a few sessions now, I've been at a situation where, and then recently I got Simulacrum, right? So actually, I had so many followers that I needed to, that actually my game master sent my Aarakocra, who was named Sikrik, away. And all that left me with was Boken and my Simulacrum. But since I started playing with Obsid Strandon, I use a laptop for my character. And I need to I have a little sheet where I go, this is what Aeson is doing. This is what Boken is doing. This is what my Simulacrum is doing. Right? Or it used to be, this is what Aeson is doing. This is what Boken is doing. This is what Sikrik is doing. Right? And I never intended to get there. Like, I added these characters because I had extra gold and I wanted to play a cool character, right? Like, I never really thought, oh, this is going to make me more powerful, right? But by playing to the story, right, one of the things that happened is it allowed me to get these extra people who were attracted to Aeson's power base, and then they were attached to Aeson's power base, and my action economy went way, way, way up. Like, you know, so, and then I thought about it, and I was like, oh my gosh, you know, if I have actions for Aeson, and I have actions for Boken, and I have actions for Sikrik, am I more powerful than David Fryan's min-maxed dwarf? Even though I forget every bonus action I'm supposed to do, even though I don't know what powers my evocation school gives me, right? Like, or I knew them at one point, but I've forgotten them. Like, it's just, you know, I just don't enjoy complexity on the mechanic side, right? And so that's my point, is I actually think the answer is yes, right? Like, by playing to the story, inadvertently, I created a more powerful character than Uthengar, Aeson Shardgale, because he constantly has 2 little satellite followers around him, is a more powerful character than Uthengar, right? It's my take. So my point is, pay attention to the story, pay less attention to the mechanics, and you will actually build a more effective character than if you had paid attention to the mechanics to begin with. It's my take. Take care, everybody.